Are you new to Necrons? Are you a Necron beginner? Well, my name's Nick, I love Necrons, and I've been playing them since 2001. And today I'm starting my brand new series of videos, the Necron Learning Curve. It's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, here we go. It's been a very long time since I did a Necron Learning Curve video. Actually, it was back in 5th edition when Necrons had their second codex. This is my codex, the one where I started playing Necrons in 2001. This is the 3rd edition codex. This codex came out in 2011, 10 years later. And obviously since then we've had a lot of codices come out. However, why do I play Necrons? I mean, why should you play Necrons? That's what today's video is about. I'm going to share my love of Necrons and why I enjoy playing them. Hopefully it will inspire you to either start a Necron army or get back to a Necron army which you've had and not really played, or if you're just starting Necrons right now, then hopefully this is the perfect series of videos for you. Obviously things are different to when I made this series of videos in 5th edition because, well, rules and tactics change so frequently. I mean, literally every couple of months for 10th edition, that tactical videos aren't really going to work, not really going to help you to a degree. I mean, there are certain tactics obviously which do last the test of time. So I'm going to review all the different units from maybe a different point of view to just tactics, just to give you some insight into maybe how you can use them. However, before we get to those videos, I want to chat about this. As I said, my first codex, the codex where I started my 40k journey, I have, since Necrons, had 5 other armies, but this is my biggest army and it's my biggest love. Now, things really changed from 3rd edition to 5th edition. This one here came out 1 year before 6th edition came out, so we didn't really have it long before everything changed. However, what really changed between these codices was the fluff, the story of Necrons, really changing from the original fluff. Now, my army, which is the Soulless Dynasty, is based on this fluff. However, of course, we have to adapt with times. And this new codex brought a lot of new miniatures with it, as well as new lore. Now, I totally understand why they revamped the Necrons in this codex, because, well, let's face it, this one here, the options were very limited war gear options, very limited units. Personally, I liked that. I didn't mind that. However, trying to push the army forward for more and more people to want to play them, want to buy the models, they had to have a change. And they did change with this codex here. In 3rd edition, we only had 1 tank, and that was the Monolith. Didn't really look like any other tank in any other army. Very unique, very cool, and I loved it. However, when the new fluff came out, we got new tanks. We got the Annihilation Barge, the Command Barge, the Triarch Stalker, the Doomsday Ark, and the Ghost Ark. We also got a whole host of Necron characters, going from just 1 character, which was the Lord, which you could upgrade to a Destroyer Lord, but effectively it was the same unit, to lots and lots of characters, obviously trying to add more depth to the army. Now, to be fair, things didn't really change that much. Each edition that came out, we had maybe a new unit. I think the Doom Scythe and Night Scythe were introduced as the codices went on, until we got to 9th edition. And that's this codex here, where we got a lot of new extra miniatures. How cool is that mug? Did you know that you can support the channel and purchase one of these on my merchandise store? We were the 9th edition poster boys, the box set. Although it's got a massive Space Marine on there, it does have a Necron as well, very small. But Necrons and Space Marines in 9th edition were the starter set. And in there were a whole host of new miniatures. New characters, yes, even more new characters. Scorpec destroyers, very, very cool new assault units. We had the Canoptic Reanimator, we had a refresh of our warrior unit, which hadn't changed since 3rd edition. They still had the green rods in those miniatures. It was pretty clear that Games Workshop were phasing out green rods. I think the only units left with a green rod is the Locust Destroyer, which I'm sure will be the next unit to either get discontinued or get a model refresh. We will see what the future holds. Now forgive me if I put the wrong dates with the wrong codices and the wrong editions and the wrong model releases, because it's been, well, a long journey and things change so rapidly. Sometimes it's hard to keep track, but I think I'm about right. Now in 9th edition we also got a load of other new miniatures, including a re-released brand new Monolith model. We got the Doom Stalker, we got the Void Dragon, we got the Silent King, some really awesome looking miniatures. However, this army now looks very different to the army that I started with. Now of course we've also had 10th edition with the new detachments and a couple of new models. We had a refresh of Imitech the Stormlord, of Oricon the Diviner, and also a brand new Overlord model with the Shroud. So lots of changes, each edition a change, and well, do I still love Necrons even though they've changed so much? Well, the simple answer is yes. If there's one thing that I would say to a new player who's getting into Warhammer 40k or probably any Games Workshop game, is prepare for change. Because even though right at the beginning it was very slow, the change, and now it's like super quick, Games Workshop always change things up. And usually the changes affect your army quite a lot because they are changing the rules, of course, to sell not only new rulebooks and data cards and of course chapter approve, but they're also trying to sell you new miniatures. So whatever miniatures are good in one edition, you usually find in the next edition they're not as good, and new miniatures have come out that they want you to buy that have better rules. I know some people who have been working on an army, a 2,000 point army, and before they even finish it, the rules have changed so much that their army is now defunct. They've got to, well, start again effectively. So yeah, be mindful of the constant Games Workshop changes. If you can't hack it, then don't worry, because you can do what you want in this game. You don't have to rush out and buy the latest set of data cards to play this game. You could play any game you want. You could buy an old 4th edition rulebook and play games from there if you want. You can make up your own rules, which is what I've done. I've got the Overlord rules. Nice, simple, easy to play rules. You don't have to worry about having card decks, etc. A fun way to play 40k. And of course, Games Workshop do their Crusade rules as well, which you can use just straight from the Codex. So yeah, don't worry about it, because this is actually your game. It's not Games Workshop's game. It's your game. So play the game however you want. Now, of course, I run a YouTube channel on Necrons. I mean, I do have other armies, which is why it's Necrons and more, but I'm primarily Necrons. So I do like to keep up to date with obviously the latest editions and rules, so that when I do a battle report, I'm playing the latest rules in that report. And of course, that way I'm also learning all of the current rules and keeping up to date. But enough about rules. Why do I play Necrons? Well, it's a combination of things, really. One, when I was a child, I say a child, yes, I did watch it underage. I remember my parents going to bed early one night, and I stayed up, I was watching a couple of comedy programmes on. I was just about to turn the telly off and go to bed, and this film came on, and it looks pretty good. So I watched it, and I watched it, and I was mesmerised by it and how good it was. I enjoyed it so much. It was, of course, The Terminator. And when I went to the shop to buy a codex to work out what army that I wanted to play, and I saw that picture on this codex, it was like, yeah, that's the army for me. I started Necrons without knowing anything about the army or the rules. I'd had one game of 40k. I played orcs and my buddy played Tyranids. I had one game, just a small little game on the coffee table. Loved it so much, went into the hobby store, saw this picture and picked it up. And I remember my buddy saying, oh my God, you've got Necrons, they are horrible. And in 3rd edition, when I started in 2001, they were horrible. They were horrible, very powerful. They had lots of quirky things, like when you lost 75% of your army, you used to phase out. Thank God that rule's gone. But I just fell in love with them straight away. When I see my army on the table, I do always think of the Terminator, the future world of Terminator, where they have all these robots, like masses of them just walking across the table. And whenever I see my army on the table, I just love the way it looks. It just looks menacing, it looks futuristic, it's very sci-fi. Necrons, they're just awesome. Now, whilst the aesthetics have changed a lot over the editions, I still, even with all of the new miniatures, get that Terminator type feel. Now, I know they're a lot more flavoursome than they used to be, with all the different characters. Of course, we lost a few characters to Legends recently, but they've still got a lot of characters. There's a lot of flavour to the army, and obviously with all the different dynasties, stroke the different detachments, the army is very varied. And that's another thing which, if you're new to Necrons, is actually really good. When I first started, we hardly had a close combat unit. We had Wraiths, but they weren't that great. I mean, they had a 3+ invulnerable save. They were survivable, but they weren't amazing in combat. We had Scarabs, but we weren't really a close combat army. We were a stand back and shooting army. Over the editions, though, that has changed. I mean, 9th edition, we had the Skorpek Lord and the Skorpek Destroyers. We even had the Novok detachment, or Novok Dynasty, which was a dedicated close combat army. And Necrons are no longer just a shooting army. They have quite a few different types of way to play, and that is obviously a bonus. I will talk about the detachments in a future video, but with those detachments we do have lots of styles of play, and we can adapt our armies to our play style. Now, one of the gripes of 10th edition is how the rules have changed so much that most armies can do most things. Every army is pretty samey. However, that can be a good thing, because it means that you are not at a disadvantage by playing a particular army. In most cases, Games Workshop are quite hot on trying to level the playing field with these armies, with a win rate from tournaments that will predict whether or not you get a boost to your rules or a debuff to your rules. A win rate between 45% and 55% is where they're trying to aim. Anywhere in that sort of ban and you're good. So regardless of what opponents you come up against, you should have half a chance, because the last thing you want is to play an army that you do just get blasted off the table every turn. I mean, I would still play Necrons, and I have played Necrons over the years where I haven't got a hope in hell of winning. However, I've also played them, of course, in the peak times when they've been really good. I'll play Necrons regardless, and hopefully you can find an army, hopefully Necrons, that also you will play regardless of how the rules are. just because you like the army that much. So if you haven't picked an army yet and you're just considering Necrons, then the biggest advice I can give you is, yes, to pick an army you like the look of, you like maybe the lore of, if you're into lore, and an army which you think you can love forever. Yes, that's my advice. Now, of course, as I said, I love Necrons and I'll be making more videos on them. In the meantime, maybe you would like to see me play the Necrons. If you do, then here is a playlist to my battle reports, and here's a couple of other Necron videos that might inspire you.